Married for 3 years, the general manager's wife is pregnant. My mother-in-law has acute kidney failure. I am the only person who can donate a suitable kidney organ to save her. I had to suppress my pain so she could have an abortion, then donate her kidney to her. After the kidney transplant surgery, when I woke up, I accidentally overheard the secret between her and her close group of sisters. Just because my wife wanted to keep her love for Bok Noyet Kwong, she deliberately deceived me with a fake diagnosis paper to force me to donate my kidney to her, just in exchange for a smile from Bok Noyet Kwong. She cruelly took advantage of me and was willing to throw away our child. At this time, their conversation became more and more heated. Underneath the blanket, my hands clenched into fists. The sharp pain from my left chest seemed to rip through my entire body. When I was about to not be able to hold back any longer, Ko Nu Tuet's voice suddenly became extremely gentle. That year, Thach Hao and I were still young. He was angry, so he went abroad, and I got married to Lam that day out of impatience. I thought it would be like this for the rest of my life, but 3 years later, Thach Hao would come back to me. Her friends immediately chimed in. That's right. We still remember clearly what happened that year. At that time, Thatta was like a tamed puppy, chasing after her for several years. The day I agreed to be with him, he thought he had finally moved me. What an idiot. Don't say a kidney. Maybe even that Da's heart is willing to give it to you. Another person laughed coldly. It's good that the child is gone. If it weren't for such a stupid father, I'd feel sorry for him. Ko Nu Tuet interrupted them. Stop talking. It seems that Da is about to wake up. Let's go back first. Just a moment later, the hospital room returned to silence. I couldn't hold back any longer, jumped up from the bed, hugged my chest with both hands, gasping for air. Ko Nu Tuet, how could she do that? How dare she? What they said was right. From the beginning, I was the first to fall in love, right at first sight. In my first year of college, I was immersed in her image and pursued her wholeheartedly for 4 years. Even though she didn't love me, she never refused my approach, making me forever hold on to hope. 3 years ago, my parents died in a car accident. During their funeral, I leaned on Ko Nu Tuet's lap and cried until my heart broke, telling her, from now on, I no longer have parents nor a home. Ko Nu Tuet was full of pity and hugged me tightly, her whole body trembling. Thatta, let's get married. I will give you a family. At that time, I considered Ko Nu Tuet the last straw that saved my life, the only ray of light in my life. After 3 years of living together, the relationship between Ko Nu Tuet and I is still fine. She is also considered a dutiful wife. Half a year ago, she discovered she was pregnant. 1 month, I was so happy that I hugged her around in the living room, then suddenly remembered something and quickly put her down. Is that forcing you? I was so emotional that I couldn't contain myself. Nu Tuet, I'm so happy. We finally have a baby. But half a month ago, Ko Nu Tuet was diagnosed with acute kidney failure. Only a kidney transplant can save her life. The search for a suitable kidney was not going well, and her condition could not wait any longer. I silently tested to find a suitable kidney. The results showed that I could donate. In the end, I endured the pain and let her abort the 7-month-old child in her womb. Then I donated one of my kidneys to her. I still clearly remember when I decided to do so. Ko Nu Tuet gently rested her head on my shoulder, her voice choked up. In the future, I will definitely not disappoint you. Thatta? Yes, pity our baby. She has been pregnant for 7 months and is just a little away from giving birth. Even though I couldn't bear to leave my child, seeing Ko Nu Tuet suffering like that, I had to suppress my pain and gently comfort her. This is to save mother, you will understand. But now, it all turns out to be a trap. A trap that Ko Nu Tuet set up to please Thach Hao. She took advantage of my love and trampled on my child's life. Suddenly, a sharp pain like thousands of needles stabbed into my heart, causing me to almost faint. I doubled over, clutching my chest, panting, tears falling drop by drop onto the snow-white blanket. The door of the hospital room was pushed open. Ko Nu Tuet's voice rang in my ear. Thatta? What's wrong with you? Is there anything uncomfortable? I raised my eyes and looked up. Ko Nu Tuet wore a hospital gown, her delicate eyebrows furrowed on that beautiful face, filled with worry and concern. What's wrong, Thatta? Is the wound painful? Let me call the doctor. I called her back. It's okay. I just woke up, so I'm a bit dizzy. Probably the effects of the anesthetic. Hearing that, Ko Nu Tuet breathed a sigh of relief. The doctor said the surgery was very successful. I just woke up too, but I was so worried about you that I had to come over here to see. Looking at her eyes, falling to my stomach, those eyes were full of pain and unwillingness. Ko Nu Tuet, her voice choked up, don't be sad. We are still young. We can still have children in the future. If I hadn't heard her conversation just now, I would definitely believe that everything she said was true. But now, I just want to question her. Did you really just wake up? Are you really sick? Can we really have children? Didn't you personally kill that child? I tried to hold back my tears and closed my eyes. Nu Tuet, please go home. I'm tired and want to rest. Ko Nu Tuet did not doubt, nodded slightly. Okay, I'll go back to the room first. Please rest. I will come back to visit you later. The door closed. I took the phone from under the pillow and texted my sister who was abroad. Send someone to pick you up tomorrow night. Drowsiness came because of the effects of the anesthetic. I fell asleep again in confusion. The next morning, I was awakened by the sound of the door opening. The person who came was Thatch Howe. He looked at me smugly. Are you awake? Look at you now. Why are you fighting with me? If I hadn't gone abroad at that time, do you think Nu Tuet would have married you? You don't really believe that just because she's pregnant, you can force her to stop you? You will no longer immerse yourself in your singing and be moved by yourself, will you? If that's true, then it's ridiculous. An idiot who only knows how to be emotional. Lamnata, I really feel sorry for you. Look, if I just say I'm not happy, even your kidney is just worthy of being thrown in the trash. Hearing Thatch Howe's words, I didn't have any reaction. I didn't even bother to lift my eyelids. When he saw that I was unmoved, he was a little dissatisfied. It seems you already know the truth. I know my kidneys have been damaged. Throw it in the trash, right? So let me tell you something interesting. One kidney. How can I cheer up? That's right. After the abortion surgery, you definitely never saw the child, right? TSK, TSK, TSK. Right now that baby is probably lying with my kidney in the trash. I suddenly raised my head, my dead eyes staring at Thatch Howe. The voice trembled violently. What do you say? This time, he was very satisfied with my reaction. When I returned home, I realized that it was like snow that I was married. I just casually said that I was jealous and unhappy because she married someone else. So she immediately planned to abort his child and take his kidney just to make me happy. In her eyes, you and the child in your belly are nothing compared to my mood. My heart beat harder. The anger in my chest felt like it was about to explode. Nu Tuet, how could she do that? Where did she get the courage? I couldn't hold back anymore. I punched Thatch Howe hard in the face. Right after that, Nu Tuet's angry voice rang in my ears. Lamnata, what are you doing? Hearing her voice, the anger on Thatch Howe's face immediately turned into a pitiful look. Lamnata, you just had major surgery. I just came to visit you. How can you attack me like that? I know you care about my relationship with Snow White, but that's all in the past. Aren't you and her very happy now? If you really can't stand it, I'll just leave. Nu Tuet looked coldly at Thatch Howe's red, swollen face. Then he turned around and angrily questioned me. What are you even doing? I didn't pay attention to her words, just stared into her eyes. I ask you, where is the baby? Nu Tuet froze, seemingly not expecting me to ask this. The baby? Wasn't the baby already aborted? Surely the hospital has already taken care of it. It's undeniable that Nu Tuet's acting skills are indeed very good, but now no matter what she says, I don't believe it anymore. I still wanted to say something more when Thatch Howe grabbed Nu Tuet's hand. Nu Tuet, I feel so uncomfortable. I'll go home first, so you should go back to the hospital room and rest. Nu Tuet wanted to say something, but looking into Thatch Howe's eyes, in the end she didn't say a word and helped him leave the hospital room. Watching their backs leave, a chill rose from my feet. 3 years of living together in bed with me, yet my wife is a wild animal. At that moment, my phone's message bell rang. On the outskirts of the small courtyard, the spirit has a good show to watch. The message sent by Thatch Howe had a provocative tone. I slightly curled my lips, my heart filled with bitterness. Actually, I might not go at all. Anyway, tonight, my sister will send someone to pick me up. But I still have to go. I wanted to see it with my own eyes to remind myself what a lie I had been living for the past 3 years. At the small courtyard, as soon as I pushed open the door, what caught my eye was a garden filled with military orchids, extremely beautiful. This cottage is where I bought it like snow a year ago. At that time, her sparkling eyes pointed to the unadorned garden and excitedly drew the future. You like growing vegetables and small fruit trees, right? In the future, you can freely grow everything you like here. When we're tired, we'll sneak away here. This place will be our secret garden. Looking at the brilliant garden of military orchids in front of me, I laughed at myself. I don't like flowers at all. These flowers are everyone's favorite. It goes without saying. I entered the small attic on the second floor. This is the place that Nutuet said she would keep as her secret base. Even I am not allowed to enter. As soon as I entered, the scene before my eyes stunned me. The space in the room was filled with hanging hemp ropes. Photos, each with a note about the mood of that day. I have known Nutuet for 4 years. Of course, I recognized her handwriting. Many of the photos have yellowed over time, but there are no folds. Obviously, it has been preserved extremely carefully. I was like a self-torturer, silently looking at each photo. Thatchow is 6 years old, so handsome, a prince in a fairy tale. My mother told me it was probably the same. Today I entered middle school, studying in the same school as Thatchow, which is great. Now Thatchow is my senior. Today is Thatchow's coming-of-age ceremony. After many years, he is finally grown up. I can finally confess to him, but it seems he likes someone. It's okay. Anyway, I'm used to secretly loving him. Thatchow is about to study abroad. Why can't he stay for me? If that's the case, then everyone I love is the same. Hundreds of photos, hundreds of mood lines, from the first innocent feelings to the burning love of childhood. And finally, there is the torment of nostalgia after separation. Nutuet's love for Thatchow is deeper and longer lasting than I imagined. As each photo passed, my tears fell faster and faster. In the end, I covered my face and almost burst into tears. Not because of Nutuet, but because of herself. For myself. 7 years ago, the person who risked everything for love. I always knew of Thatchow's existence. Anyway, I pursued Nutuet for 4 years. She has another guy in her heart. How could I not know? But when I was sure that Nutuet was just one-sided, I still threw myself into the beautiful dream I created for myself. The age of 18 is the age when you are ready to sacrifice everything for love. I am willing to volunteer to choose the fruit. My heart goes to the girl I fell in love with at the age of 18. I could never have imagined that 7 years of trying would eventually end with my child's life and a kidney. It's ridiculous. At that moment, despicable sounds rang out from the living room on the first floor. I followed the sound and walked out of the loft, standing on the second floor hallway and looking down. As soon as the two people below entered the door, they couldn't wait to embrace each other. Thatchow's voice became hoarse with excitement. I don't have kidney failure at all. What if I have kidney failure? What if I know? It is said that his sister has been very successful abroad over the years. Will the agency be in trouble by then? Ko Nutuet's voice is so soft that it makes people's bones weak. He's in the hospital. Who dares to tell him the truth? Don't worry. Besides, that there is my loyal dog. Whatever I say, he believes it. He can't doubt my words. Maybe he still thinks I'm resting in the hospital room. As soon as the words fell, Thatchow was embracing her. Suddenly his eyes flashed, touching my eyes in the air. In those eyes, satisfaction was about to overflow. Seeing that, what else do I not understand? Thatchow is sure I will come. So he intentionally let me see this scene. Intentionally made me completely desperate. I smiled at him. What is the need to do that? The moment I learned the truth, my heart died. In 3 years of marriage, I have never seen Ko Nutuet so passionate. I always thought she was born gentle and calm. Now I know. It turns out I never lit the fire of passion in her heart. Looking at the two of them kissing and embracing each other, entering the bedroom, I left the cottage. It was not until nightfall that Ko Nutuet returned to the hospital. A trace of guilt flashed in her eyes, but before I could grasp it, it disappeared. Instead, there was dissatisfaction. You're too much today. Thatchow and I have been close friends since we were kids. I admit I liked him before, but that's all in the past. How could you act so immediately? Speaking of this, she gently sighed. Her tone softened a bit. But I shouldn't be too harsh with you. You just finished surgery and are in a bad mood. I should sympathize with you more and not say such harsh words. It's my fault. I looked at Ko Nutuet. Her neck was covered with red marks after making love. I mocked myself in my heart and said softly, Is the spirit cottage finished being repaired? I want to come take a look. Konu Tuet was startled, seemingly not expecting me to suddenly ask that. An expression of panic appeared on his face that could not be concealed. Is the courtyard in spirit? You suddenly ask this. The courtyard is still being repaired, in the style you like. Once you've recovered, let's go there and see. Listening to her clumsy lies, my heart did not waver at all. Even wanted to laugh. The style I like is the style that sure how likes, right? Before I could say anything, her phone rang. Message notification tone. Glancing at the screen, she immediately stood up and looked at me pretending to be in pain. I suddenly feel unwell. Maybe the wound is inflamed. I'll go back to the hospital room and find a doctor to check it out. Please rest well. Having finished speaking, Konu Tuet did not even glance at me, turned around and left the hospital room. Looking at her expression, I knew that the message was sent by Thach Hao. Half an hour later, a text message came from my sister. Downstairs. I immediately pulled the blanket off, stood up, placed the printed and signed divorce papers on the hospital bed. Konu Tuet. Thach Hao. Next time we meet again, I hope you two can still laugh. Getting in the car, I turned off my phone. At this point, I was completely relaxed, and the devil would glance at me through the rearview mirror. Mr. Lam, shall I take you to the airport now? Mr. Lam will wait for you at the international airport. General Lam told me to tell you that the investigation of her has almost been completed. You can rest assured. I nodded, adjusted my position comfortably, closed my eyes and rested. 2 hours later, I boarded the plane smoothly. At the same time, in the spiritual courtyard, Konu Tuet and Thach Hao were immersed in pleasure. Small toys were scattered all over the bed. At this moment, Konu Tuet's secretary knocked on the door. Being disturbed midway, Konu Tuet angrily threw her pillow towards the door. Fuck off. But the knocking on the door did not stop. On the contrary, it became more urgent. Konu Tuet angrily ruffled her hair and pulled the door open. It better be important. But before he could finish his sentence, the secretary's urgent voice interrupted. Mr. Ko, that day is nowhere to be seen. Konu Tuet rolled her eyes and stared at the secretary. What do you mean you can't see him anymore? Isn't he resting in the hospital? The secretary bowed his head and held out the paper in his hand. Just now, the director called to say that when they went to check the hospital room, they discovered that he was not in there. I ran to look and saw that his identification papers and bank card were also gone. This was also left on the bed. Konu Tuet was stunned, her eyes fixed firmly on the paper. Before she could open her mouth, Thach Hao on the bed was already laughing. Is this guy that sick? He's been married for so many years, and yet he's still playing soft and tight. It seems like he's still angry with me. But it's just me. I shouldn't have come to see him, even though I just wanted to take care of him. But I didn't expect him to be so sensitive. I haven't said anything yet, and he's already hitting on me. His temper is really bad. You've been miserable these past few years, right? It's okay, wait for him. When I come back, I will explain clearly. But Nu Tuet, you should talk to him. He is so jealous. What should I do next? Don't worry too much. He is an orphan. He has no father or mother. Where can he go? Konu Tuet remained silent without saying a word, her eyes staring blankly at the divorce petition. For 7 years, 7 nights of love. Konu Tuet has been loved for 7 years. Body like snow. Understanding how steadfast Lam That Da's love for him is, especially after Lam That Da's parents passed away, he even lacked a sense of security. So he has never used divorce to threaten her, until now. Snow still clearly remembers the wedding day. Lam That Da stood in front of her in a black suit, saying every word, every sentence firmly. But Snow, if one day you regret marrying me, tell me honestly. I will leave on my own. But before that, as long as you still love me, no matter what happens, I will not use divorce to threaten you. Now, remembering those words, I feel cold like snow. Lam That Da's love is always straightforward and clear. He doesn't have to play tricks, deliberately get close, and then distance himself. Seeing that Konu Tuet did not answer, Thach Hao was a little panicked. Like Snow, you weren't really tricked by Lam That Da, were you? You're a woman, you don't understand men's tricks. I've met many people like him. This type of person just wants to use those tricks to control you. However, hearing Thach Hao say that, a feeling of disgust suddenly rose in Ko's heart like snow for an unknown reason. That is not the kind of man you say. He is my husband. Her low voice made Thatch How panicked and hastily corrected. I didn't mean that. I'm just afraid you're too hasty. Don't worry. Maybe he's just worried about my presence. He didn't think clearly for the moment. Moreover, he just finished surgery. The baby is no longer there. It's normal for him to be in an unstable mood. Just leave him alone. He'll think clearly and come back on his own. His sister is still there. Abroad, he has nowhere to go. Muscles like Snow just feel confused. Thatch How's constant chatter made her unable to bear it anymore. Why is the baby no longer there? Don't you understand? At that time, it was you who insisted on going abroad, and it was you who refused me time and time again. That's why I chose to marry that duh. Now he is my husband. Strictly speaking, you are the third person in my marriage with him, right? Having finished speaking, Ko Nu Tuet stood up and left. Thatch How's eyes filled with tears. Poor, calling her name. Like Snow. Until now, Thatch How still thought that he was Ko's unforgettable love like Snow, but did not know that his recent words had completely broken that image in her heart. For Thatch How, acceptance of not having it is always more than true love. Now, when the halo of first love is shattered, how can a smart person like Ko like Snow not realize that Thatch How's words are full of malice? This time, Ko Nu Tuet interrupted him. It's too late. Just rest here. Let's talk about our story later. Having finished speaking, she did not bother to look at Thatch How one more time, leading the secretary and leaving the courtyard without looking back. Stepping out of the courtyard, Ko stopped like Snow, turned her head and stared at the blooming military orchid garden. She understood clearly. Lamb that duh. If it was only because of this morning's conflict, he absolutely would not have left so decisively. Furthermore, in his eyes at this moment, she was still a patient who had just undergone a kidney transplant. Lamb that duh absolutely cannot bear to leave her at this time. The snow-like body retracted its gaze and strode out. Investigate what happened in the hospital these past 2 days. Report back to me every detail. While the small hospital was in chaos, at an airport in a foreign land, my flight landed safely. Seeing my sister, I couldn't hold back anymore and burst into tears, as if I wanted to cry out all the inhibitions of the past 7 years. She hugged me in her arms, each heavy breath clearly showing her anger. The matter you told me to investigate, I have almost finished investigating. In addition, I have also collected evidence of Ko T's crimes over the years. Not only that couple, but also Ko T. I will not leave it alone. Rest assured, your sister, who has been abroad for several years, is also a prominent figure. Dealing with a small Ko T is not worth anything. Now you go with me. First, I've made an appointment with the best surgeon in the country to examine you. You've lost a kidney and you're sitting on a plane for so long. I'm afraid your body won't be able to handle it. Hearing her concerned words, I felt bitter. Tears just dried and fell again. Before something happened to my parents, right when Lam Gia Group expanded its market abroad, my sister was hardly present in the country. When something happened to her parents, she hurriedly returned. After taking care of the funeral, she planned to take me abroad with her. But at that time, I chose to marry Ko Nu Tuet to be her husband. Ko Nu Tuet also assured her that she would wholeheartedly treat me well. Lam Gia cannot let business abroad be affected. In that situation, she chose to trust Ko Nu Tuet. But neither she nor I expected that Ko Nu Tuet was not an honest person but a wretched person, no better than an animal. While she took me for a health check and collected evidence with me, back in the country, Ko Nu Tuet received documents from the investigation secretary. Her face was gloomy, gritted her teeth, and said word by word, "Bring Thatch How here." Thatch How thought that Ko Nu Tuet had calmed down and wanted to find him. Anyway, over the past time, Ko Nu Tuet has always pampered him to the fullest, without any precautions. He happily arrived at the rendezvous point. Like Snow, have you finally thought it through? Has there been any news from that duh? I told you, he definitely doesn't have the heart to really divorce you. Am I right? I've seen too many men like this. Ko Nu Tuet suddenly squeezed Thatch How's neck, causing his remaining words to choke in his throat. Seeing her cold eyes, Thatch How felt scared. Like Snow, what's wrong with you? Nu Tuet, I'm Thatch How. Ko Nu Tuet coldly snorted, interrupting him. Then, looking at the secretary, repeat what she just said. The secretary swallowed her saliva and her voice trembled. We checked the surveillance cameras at the hospital. The day Mr. Thatch finished surgery, Mr. Thatch came to his hospital room. You already knew. He knew his kidney was thrown in the trash. Mr. He knew everything. We also checked the cameras at the small hospital. When you and Mr. Ha were in the room, Mr. Thatch was standing on the second-floor mezzanine. Everything you two did, he saw? Kidney, but also after the abortion surgery ended, Mr. Thatch bribed the doctor to take the baby away. Hearing this, Thatch House suddenly turned his head to look at Ko Nu Tuet, trying to revive her feelings for him. He's like snow, you hear me out. He already knows, isn't that good? Now that he's gone, we can be together properly. Haven't you said you love me, that you want to be with me forever? I also agreed with this at first. Now that he knows the truth, it's good. He will be completely heartbroken and will no longer be attached to you. Ko Nu Tuet, what's wrong with you? Don't you know all about this already? Ko Nu Tuet's hand tightened around Thatch House's neck, making it almost impossible for him to breathe. I agree. Do I agree to let you take my child away? Do I agree to let you deliberately provoke that? Thatch House, how many years have I not realized that you are such a disgusting man? I've told you before, just don't make a fuss in front of that. I'll give you anything you want. At this moment, the secretary's phone rang. The person on the other end of the second only said one sentence. Before the secretary could open his mouth, the call was disconnected. It was Mr. calling. He told me to check my email. Ko Nu Tuet was startled, regained consciousness, and violently threw Thatch House to the ground, grabbed the phone, and opened the email. Inside there is a document file that has just been sent, and the main character in it is Thatch House. Ko Nu Tuet read each word, her fingers gripping the phone so tightly that they turned white, as if about to crush it. She suddenly threw the phone straight at Thatch House, who was falling to the ground. Very good, Thatch House. He also lied to me that for the past 3 years he has been studying abroad. It turned out that he went abroad with another woman, got bored and abandoned her, and then came back to find me to pick up the body. Star? And yet, do you still use this dirty and disgusting trick to chase that doe away? Really good at calculations. Thatch House could not refute, because the documents on the phone were investigated by that doe's sister. For the past 3 years, he has been abroad, not studying abroad, but running away with his lover. After being thrown away, he was also famous among international students as a gigolo. Only when his reputation was tarnished and he had no way to live did he return to find Ko Nu Tuet. Fed up with Thatch House, Ko Nu Tuet bled nonstop, but he didn't have time to wipe it away. He could only hug Ko Nu Tuet's leg tightly, screaming, "No, Nu Tuet, it's all fake. I really went to study abroad. Wasn't that call just from that to calling? Surely he hates that you and I are together, so he was intentionally placed in a separate relationship. Nu Tuet, don't fall into his trap." Ko Nu Tuet coldly kicked him hard. The voice sounded like death from hell. Thatch House, at this point do you still want to deny it? Do you think I'm an idiot? Let me play with you in the palm of your hand. The evidence is clear and obvious. Thatch House knew he couldn't deny it anymore, so he had to use his old trick again, pretending to be pitiful. Nu Tuet, I really have no choice, Nu Tuet. At that time, I was young and didn't know how to appreciate you. But now I really love you, Nu Tuet. I really love you. Ko Nu Tuet didn't want to listen anymore, so she kicked him hard again. If you do anything, you can hurt that duh. What's wrong? What about that duh? What did he do wrong? Ko Nu Tuet stood up, not bothering to look at Thatch House anymore. Seeing her so unsympathetic, Thatch House didn't bother pretending anymore, pointing straight at her and screaming, "What do you mean by now putting all the responsibility on me? Ko Nu Tuet, do you think you're innocent? That surgery was performed in your hospital, such an illegal surgery without her consent. How dare the doctor move the knife? Now do you feel sorry for that duh? He's been married to you for 3 years, so where were you before? I tell you, all of this is because of you, Ko Nu Tuet. It's because she both wants this and that. If I were that duh, I would have run away a long time ago." Ko Nu Tuet turned to look at Thatch House with eyes as if looking at a pile of trash. "My mistake. I will atone for it myself. As for what you owe that duh and the baby, you also have to pay it back." As soon as he finished speaking, several bodyguards wearing black suits immediately rushed into the room and pulled him away. How to live better than death? I think you guys understand better than me. In the basement of the villa, the miserable screams of the devil rang out. I was completely unaware of what happened in the country. After sending the documents, my sister was able to investigate to Ko Nu Tuet's secretary. She immediately took me around to major hospitals abroad, looking for a suitable kidney source for me and collecting evidence to prepare for the fatal blow. And that day, when my sister and I were about to go out, there was suddenly a knock on the door. As soon as I opened the door, a familiar figure knelt down in front of me. Tata, I've come to pick you up. Will you come home with me? Before I could even open my mouth, my sister slapped me hard. You bastard. You still dare to come here. Why did my brother become like this? It's all because of you. What right do you have to ask him to come home? Konu Tuet is an extremely arrogant person, but at this moment, facing her sister's continuous slaps, she not only did not resist, but also did not dodge, just stubbornly endured. Her mouth just kept muttering, Sister, it's my fault. It's all my fault. I'm a mean person. I deserve to be beaten, but I beg you, please let me meet Tata, so I can tell him directly. It wasn't until Konu Tuet's face was covered in blood that I hastily held my angry sister. That's enough. If you hit me again, something like that will happen. It's not worth getting your hands dirty for someone as convenient as her. I coldly looked at Konu Tuet. Go away. I have nothing to say to you, nor do I want to listen to you. Seeing her sister stop, Konu Tuet immediately knelt and straightened up. I'm not going. Unless you follow me home. I haven't signed the divorce papers yet. You're still my husband. Let's go home together. Hearing that, my sister was angry and wanted to attack again. I quickly shook my head to stop it, then looked at Konu Tuet kneeling in front of me. What's the point of coming back to you? To continue to witness you and thatch how dirty behind my back. Do you want to continue watching him dominate you, or do you want something else from me this time? The child is no more. I'm so sorry. My voice was filled with sarcasm. Konu Tuet, trembling, immediately opened her mouth to deny. No, I didn't tell him to give the baby. He bribed the doctor in the hospital. I laughed bitterly. So if you don't know, then it's not a crime? Don't you know that I can forgive you and continue to come home and be my wife? I stared at her. Konu Tuet. That day, I heard everything you and your close friends said in the hospital room. Konu Tuet's face immediately turned pale. Her lips moved for a long time, but could not utter a word. Tears fell from my eyes. Konu Tuet, in the past 7 years, you have never been honest with me. You even killed my child, yet you think I will be calm. When I'm with you, my tears fall onto my palm. Muscles like snow, she jumped as if burned. That's not true. Tata, listen to my explanation. I love you. I've loved you for a long time. I just didn't realize it. I always lived in happiness without knowing how to appreciate it. I was too confident. I thought you wouldn't leave. I thought you would always be by my side. I coldly interrupted. That's enough. It's like snow. Every word you say now makes me disgusted. What you said can change my 7 years, my child back. What right do you have to ask me for forgiveness? His eyes were like bloodshot red snow, choking. It's been a long time since I uttered a sentence. You said, no matter what happens, you're willing to wait for me. I was stunned. My memories flashed back to the distant past. That year, I was 18 years old, ready to sacrifice everything for love. After confessing my love to her, I received the answer that she already had someone else in her heart and could not accept me. At that time, I just looked at her gently but firmly. Beauty is like snow, but you're not with that person, right? I can wait. Wait until you like me. Wait until you accept me. As long as it's you, body is like snow. Even if it's 100 times, 1,000 times, I'm willing to wait. I laughed softly, my heart filled with bitterness. If I had known this day would come, I would rather have never met you in my entire life. Tears fell like snow, like rain. Her voice cracked. Sorry. I laughed mockingly, looking at her. Sorry? If you really feel sorry, then go away. I don't know when the snow left. I only know that the next morning when I opened the door, it was empty outside. At the same time, a domestic hospital contacted us, saying they had found a suitable kidney. My sister was so happy that she almost burst into tears. Tata, let's go home right away. I'll arrange for the doctor to perform surgery as soon as possible. Just in time, the evidence in my hand will have been collected. We'll deal with all these headaches. Then everything will be better. Returning home, I was quickly scheduled for surgery. Everything went smoothly, but I still need to stay in the hospital for further monitoring to see if there is a rejection reaction or not. The third day after surgery, while my sister was chatting with me in the hospital room, the TV suddenly broadcast a news report. 3 days ago, In the basement of the general manager's villa, a male body was discovered. The victim's body had many wounds. Her stomach was hollowed out, and all her internal organs were gone. During his lifetime, the victim was subjected to cruel torture. At the same time, the agency and its affiliated hospitals were also accused of tax evasion and illegal practice. After investigation and verification, the illegal amount reached 9 figures. The person responsible and the doctors involved will be held accountable. Currently, the Snow body is missing. The police are trying to catch it. My sister and I looked at each other silently for a long time. At this time, the nurse walked in and gave me a piece of paper with only 2 sentences on it. I have paid back what I owe you. In this life, I was wrong. In the next life, it is my turn to pursue you, okay? I gently touched the still bandaged wound on my stomach. It turned out that this was the kidney of the snow-like muscle. My sister sighed deeply, her voice somewhat hesitant. Do you forgive her? Do you accept her promise in the next life? I folded the paper and did not answer, just quietly looking out the window. It's like snow. If there is an afterlife, we won't see each other again.